People think success heals every wound, but the truth is, sometimes the people who hurt you the most aren't strangers. They're the ones clapping the loudest when you fail. My name is Ethan Vale, and I turned 34 last month. On paper, I'm the founder of a thriving tech consulting firm that's been growing steadily for years. In reality, I'm the family embarrassment, the invisible son. My parents pretend doesn't exist unless they need a cautionary tale about wasted potential. My sister, Nicole, was always the golden one. Brilliant, beautiful. The living proof that perfection runs in our blood. Except mine. I used to think the silence in our house meant peace. It didn't. It meant exclusion. At dinner, my parents would beam at Nicole's Ivy League stories while I quietly ate, waiting for someone to ask how my day went. They never did. I learned early that being invisible was safer than being noticed, only to be compared. When I launched my own business after college, my father laughed. "So you're unemployed by choice," he said, swirling his scotch. My mother smiled softly but never defended me. She never does. Still, I kept going. Built something real. Clients, employees, growth. But no matter how far I came, my family never saw it. To them, success only counted if it came with a title on someone else's payroll. Nicole had that senior marketing director. Fancy name, big firm, six-figure salary. Everything that made my parents glow with pride. I was just the son who fixes computers. The imbalance wasn't new. It started decades ago. Forgotten birthdays. Praise that skipped my name. Gifts that reminded me I wasn't the favorite. But as adults, the distance became something heavier. Every phone call, every holiday dinner, every subtle dig reminded me that love in my family came with conditions. Status, image, obedience. So when Nicole's wedding invitation arrived, with a handwritten note from my mother that read, "Please wear appropriate attire. Important people will be there," I almost tore it up. There was no, "Can't wait to celebrate with you." No, "We're proud of you." Just another reminder that I existed to protect their image, not to belong. For a moment, I considered not going at all. Why spend thousands flying across the country just to sit through another round of polite humiliation? But something inside me shifted that night. A small voice that said, "Go. Let them see what they've refused to see all these years." I didn't know it then, but that decision would lead to the most unexpected reckoning of my life. One that would unravel decades of lies, expose the truth behind our family's perfect facade, and change everything I thought I knew about justice, love, and myself. When I think back, there wasn't one single moment that broke me. It was a lifetime of small ones, the kind that pile up quietly, invisible to everyone else, until you start to believe the lie that you deserve it. I remember my 13th birthday. Nicole had just turned 9, and our parents threw her a huge backyard party with a magician, balloons, and a chocolate fountain. When it was my turn, we had dinner at home. No cake, no candles. My father said he was busy. My mother said we'd celebrate properly next weekend. We never did. That night, Nicole handed me a card she'd made from construction paper. "Maybe next year you'll get a real party," she said, smiling the way children do when they repeat their parents without realizing the cruelty in it. At 16, I got a summer job repairing computers at a local shop. I saved every dollar, hoping to buy a second-hand laptop to help with school. When I told my parents, my father chuckled. "Working with machines suits you," he said. "At least they don't require personality." Nicole, meanwhile, got a brand new MacBook for getting an A in English. Even the way they looked at us was different. My father's eyes softened when Nicole walked into a room, but when he looked at me, it was like he was studying a problem that wouldn't go away. My mother would ask about Nicole's projects, her friends, her dreams, and when she turned to me, it was always, "Are you eating well? Do you have health insurance?" Never, "Are you happy?" I learned to shrink myself to fit the space they gave me. At dinners, I listened but didn't speak. When they laughed at my expense, I forced a smile. I became fluent in silence. How to fade from the conversation before anyone noticed I was gone. By the time I reached college, I'd perfected the art of invisibility. I went to a state school, not the Ivy League, Not even close. I worked part-time jobs to pay rent, studied late into the night, and told myself that if I could just make something of myself, maybe they'd finally see me. When I launched my tech consulting business years later, I sent my parents the announcement. No reply. Not even a congratulations. The next week, my mother posted on Facebook about how proud she was of Nicole for getting her MBA. That was the rhythm of my life. Nicole soared. I disappeared. Every holiday became a theater performance. Same roles, same lines. My father boasting about Nicole's promotions. My mother gushing over her new car. Then, as if remembering an afterthought, she'd turn to me. And Ethan, how's your little company? Little. That word stuck to me like tar. When my business finally hit its stride, 6 employees, recurring contracts, steady revenue, I invited them to visit my office. They said they were too busy. Instead, they sent a Christmas card that read, "Keep striving. We're sure you'll get there someday." I told myself I didn't care, but the truth was, I did. Every success felt incomplete because the people who should have been proud were too busy being disappointed that it wasn't done their way. So when Nicole announced her engagement, I didn't expect to be included. I received the invitation weeks after everyone else. The envelope was addressed in my mother's handwriting. Elegant, distant, with a note that read, "Please arrive early. We want the family photos to look consistent." Consistent. That was the word she chose. Not complete. I called my best friend, Marcus, that night. "Why am I even going?" I asked. "They'll just look at me like they always do, like I'm a smudge on their perfect family portrait." Marcus was silent for a moment, then said, "Because one day, you'll want to know you showed up. Not for them, for yourself." I hung up, still unsure, but somewhere deep inside, something shifted. Maybe I wanted closure. Maybe I wanted to prove, if only once, that I wasn't the failure they made me out to be. So I booked the ticket, pressed my new suit, and told myself that this wedding would be the last time I ever let them make me feel small. What I didn't know was that it would also be the day everything they'd built, every illusion of perfection, came crashing down. The morning of Nicole's wedding felt unreal. The sun was mercilessly bright over the California coast, glittering across miles of ocean. The kind of day that looked perfect in photos but felt suffocating in person. I stood in front of the mirror, straightening my tie, my reflection sharp against the backdrop of luxury I didn't belong in. The resort was a shrine to excess. Marble floors, white orchids, champagne towers, and guests whose laughter echoed with entitlement. Everything about it screamed image. I was there to fill a space in a photograph, not a seat at the table. But I'd promised myself I wouldn't disappear this time. Not again. When I stepped into the rehearsal dinner, the old patterns began immediately. My father arrived 20 minutes late, making his grand entrance with a story about Nicole's latest award. My mother floated behind him, her voice sugar-coated with pride. Our Nicole's presentation was so brilliant that the CEO called personally. She told the guests. They didn't even notice me sitting at the far end of the table, half hidden behind a centerpiece taller than my self-worth. "Ethan, you made it," my father finally said, as if I were some distant relative who had wandered in by accident. "How's the computer thing going?" "It's a consulting firm, Dad," I said, keeping my voice steady. "We just signed our biggest client." He nodded absently. "That's nice." Then he turned to Nicole. "Tell them about the merger." "Sweetheart." That was how it always went. Me, the comma in someone else's sentence. Later that night, as the music softened and guests drifted toward the bar, I found myself outside, shoes sinking slightly into the sand. The air was cool, the waves steady. I closed my eyes and tried to remember the last time I'd felt seen, really seen, by anyone in that family. I couldn't. Then came a voice behind me. "You're Nicole's brother." "Right." I turned to see Jackson, her fiancé. He wasn't what I expected. No arrogance, no performative charm, just calm eyes and a whiskey glass in his hand. "Yeah," I said. "That's me. The family disappointment." He smiled faintly. "Funny. She never said that." "Give it time." He laughed softly, but there was something kind in the sound. "You know, I run a finance firm, and I can tell you, building something from scratch takes more guts than climbing someone else's ladder. Maybe they just don't get that. For the first time all weekend, someone had spoken to me without condescension. I didn't realize how much I needed that. Just one person who saw me as more than the family shadow. The next day, I was asked to help with the wedding details. Turns out, details meant packing welcome bags for guests. While everyone else was at the spa or photo shoot, I was stuffing branded water bottles into tote bags. My mother found me there and looked horrified. "Ethan, people will think you're staff. Please stop. Go. Fix your hair or something." Her words hit harder than they should have. I wanted to tell her I was fine, that I was done letting their opinions define me. But all I felt was the old sting, the same shame that had followed me since childhood. That evening, as the sun bled into the ocean, Nicole found me in the hallway. "I know Mom and Dad can be intense," she said, fiddling with her bracelet. "But please, just behave tonight. This wedding is important. Alexandra's here. She's my boss. I can't afford to look bad." "Don't worry," I said quietly. "I'm good at being invisible." For a flicker of a second, guilt crossed her face. Then it vanished. "Just don't make things harder." When she walked away, I realized something. My whole life, I'd been walking on eggshells around people who never noticed the cracks. That night, alone in my hotel room, I made a silent promise. This would be the last event I'd ever attend as the version of myself they created, the one who stayed small to keep their comfort intact. Whatever happened tomorrow, I'd face it standing tall, because I was done apologizing for existing. And when morning came, when the vows, the speeches, and the charade began, none of us knew that by sunset. The perfect picture they'd built would shatter. The ceremony was flawless, the kind of event designed to impress rather than feel. White roses lined the aisle, champagne shimmered in every glass, and Nicole floated down the platformed walkway like a magazine cover brought to life. The guests smiled, the cameras flashed, and I stood near the back, clapping with polite restraint. But as the sun set and the reception began, the air shifted. I was seated at table 19, the one furthest from the dance floor, alongside relatives who barely remembered my name. My father called it logistical necessity. I called it what it was: exile. From where I sat, I could see everything. The laughter at the head table, the practiced smiles, the way Nicole's eyes kept darting toward one woman, tall, poised, with silver hair and quiet confidence. That woman was Alexandra Hartwell, the CEO of Nicole's firm, the person my sister desperately needed to impress. When Alexandra's gaze landed on our family and she began walking toward us, Nicole's composure cracked. My father straightened his tie. My mother adjusted her necklace. Nicole's perfect smile faltered. "Would you introduce me to your family?" Alexandra asked warmly. Nicole's eyes flicked nervously to me. "Of course. This is my father, William Vale, Vice President at Summit Pharmaceuticals, and my mother, Lorraine Vale. And this?" Alexandra asked. Looking at me, Nicole hesitated. Then, with that same brittle smile, she said, "This is my brother, Ethan. He's between jobs." The air thinned. My father laughed, our free spirit, still trying to find his footing. Before I could react, Alexandra spoke, calm but firm. "Between jobs? What kind of work do you do?" "Ethan," Nicole jumped in. "Oh, just freelance tech work. Nothing formal." Alexandra raised a hand. "I'd like to hear from him." "I run a tech consulting firm," I said evenly. "We help small and mid-sized businesses implement enterprise systems affordably. 11 employees, 43 clients, 97% retention rate." A flicker of respect passed through Alexandra's eyes. "Impressive. What made you choose that market?" "Because small businesses deserve the same innovation big corporations hoard," I said. Nicole's forced laugh cut through the silence. "Alexandra, you didn't come here to talk about." "You're fired," Alexandra said flatly. Nicole froze. "What?" "Clear your desk Monday morning. Your lack of integrity has become a liability." Tonight only confirmed it. Gasps spread across the nearby tables. My father's face turned crimson. "You can't just..." I can, Alexandra said, her tone unflinching. Leadership starts with character. Then she turned to me, handed me her personal card, and said, "Call me. I think your company deserves bigger clients." As she walked away, Nicole's face broke, shock giving way to rage. "You did this," she screamed. "You couldn't stand that I was successful." "I didn't do anything," I said quietly. "You did," my father's voice thundered. "You've destroyed your sister's life." I looked at them, at all of them, and said, "No, you destroyed it the moment you taught her that being admired mattered more than being decent." I walked out before anyone could reply. The ocean air hit my face, sharp and cold. For the first time in my life, I wasn't running away. I was walking toward something better. A week after the wedding, I expected to feel triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow. The silence in my apartment was thick. Not the suffocating silence I'd grown up with, but something new, raw, and cleansing. I sat there, reading through the flood of messages lighting up my phone, angry ones from my parents, confused ones from relatives, and, strangely, a few from guests who'd witnessed the confrontation and wanted to know more about my business. For the first time, I didn't respond. I didn't defend myself. I didn't explain. I just let it be. 3 weeks later, an email arrived from Alexandra Hartwell. She wanted to meet. That meeting changed everything. Alexandra became a mentor, connecting me to companies that needed my services. My business expanded faster than I could have imagined. But the victory wasn't just financial, it was emotional. Proof that I could thrive without my family's approval. Months later, Jackson showed up at my office with Nicole beside him. Her voice trembled when she said, "I lost my job because of me." Alexandra told me she'd been watching for months. The wedding just confirmed it. Her next words broke something open in me. "I was jealous of you. You built something real." I spent my life chasing applause. I didn't know what to say. For the first time, my sister was seeing me, really seeing me. Over time, we rebuilt. My parents went to therapy. The conversations turned awkward but honest. The hierarchy crumbled, and in its place, something fragile but real began to grow. Now, 2 years later, my life is quiet in a way that feels full. Mornings start with coffee on the balcony, the hum of the city below. Nicole found her footing again, working at a smaller firm. Sometimes she even helps with marketing ideas for my company. The silence that once haunted me has changed. It's not the echo of neglect anymore. It's calm. It's freedom. Because the truth is, you don't heal by proving your worth to those who refused to see it. You heal by realizing you never needed their permission in the first place. If you've ever been the forgotten one, the overlooked, the underestimated, remember this: your story isn't over. Sometimes, the pain they gave you becomes the power that saves you. And if this story resonated with you, don't forget, you're not alone. Subscribe to Vengeance Within for more stories of truth, courage, and rebirth. Because every wound carries the seed of transformation. If you're brave enough to face it,